over the country. It's been a great summer so far, but I'm ready to sit down at my desk and start working on the teams.
It has been a tremendous few years, and we're so happy for the support that you guys have given us. And we cannot wait for another year of covering women's college volleyball. As always, we are brought to you by SNA Sports, better equipment for a better game. Go check them out. And if you were interested in advertising or partnering, sponsoring on our show, go ahead and reach out. Our email will be given to you often, sixrotations@gmail.com. You can spell it all out. And one of the reasons why, Mick, is because last year fans loved the giveaways that we did. And so we've got our fantastic friends at Ren Athletics who again have partnered with us to give away a hodgepodge of gear. You might get a hoodie, you might get a zip up, you might get a quarter zip with our Six Rotations logo on it. And so last year we did a little bit more of a pick'em style throughout the season, and we might throw that at you from time to time. But Mick had a great idea, and I love it as well. A lot of our giveaways this year are going to go hand in hand with a new feature that we are going to throw into the mix. It is going to be our Six Rotations Team of the Week. We are going to have one setter, one libero, two outsides, two middles, and an opposite. Mick is going to generate it every week. I'll have a little bit of say. And we also want you guys every single weekend, whether it be maybe on Sunday or if you want Monday morning or Monday midday, go ahead and email us your Six Rotations Team of the Week. It can be made up of mid-majors, power five players, or I guess power four now, and a complete concoction of Mick's brain. If you guys match up exactly with Mick's Team of the Week, you will win a giveaway. And so that's how we're going to start things off with this season and integrate, trying to get you guys involved in your say and who you think is really stepping up and maybe players that we haven't talked about. Because, Mick, as we like to remind people, at the end of the day, we're just four eyes trying to survey the landscape of all of these matches that go on in a week. And Mick, we've got to kick things off by previewing and talking a little bit about this incredible week zero of women's college volleyball coming up on August 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. It's the AVCA First Serve. Now, don't worry, we are going to get to our top 25 poll here in a minute, but I've got to build a little anticipation, don't we? Because this year, Mick, it is not going to be on a random Tuesday in Louisville like last year. That was a success, but this is going to be infinitely better. It is a weekend in volleyball's capital, the state of Nebraska, and it starts off with Pittsburgh and Nebraska on Fox Friday night at 7 in Lincoln, in the Devaney Center, as two teams that are perennial Final Four teams will start off, and then Florida and Stanford to follow. Both of those matches on Fox. What do you think when you hear this news and you see these big teams? Saturday will be Kansas and Vanderbilt at 3 o'clock Eastern. Penn State and Creighton will finish it off on the Saturday, and then Florida, Pitt, Stanford, Nebraska on Sunday, all in Lincoln.
Well, it's a great opening for the season, and it shows several things. First of all, you got number one and number four against each other. I'm not going to say who those are yet.
Ooh, that's a good teaser.
Yeah, so that's a good one. You get to see first ever Vanderbilt showing their team who's been training for almost 2 years now, but hasn't had a schedule. This is their first varsity season ever, so we'll see them come out of the tunnel and see how well they do to start with. And then you have some new coaches coaching, and we get to see what they can put together with what they got after they got to their schools. So I'm kind of excited about that. There's some new players to watch. We can identify those when we go through the top 25. And there's some foreign players that have snuck onto rosters that we don't know anything about, so we want to see.
Yeah, if you heard Vanderbilt and you're thinking, oh, Vanderbilt, yes, this is going to be their first ever intercollegiate women's volleyball match on Fox Sports 1 against Kansas. New coaching staff there as Matt Ulmer made the move from Oregon. Danny Busboom Kelly will make her long-awaited Nebraska coaching debut on opening night on Big Fox. You've got the defending champs in Penn State up against a powerhouse with a new coach as well in Creighton. The coaching carousel is very busy, and we will have a little time to talk about all of that. But of course, the big names, Mary Wise, John Cook, Ray Bouchard, all have moved on from the coaching side. Mary Wise will actually be on the ESPN side of things, added to the ESPN crew as an analyst this season. I'm very excited. I've been added as well to the ESPN linear team, so I'll be doing a few ACC network matches here in the fall. But as you look forward one more day, Monday, August 25th, the swing moves from Lincoln, Nebraska to Sioux Falls up in South Dakota, where Penn State and Kansas will tangle on Big Ten Network at 6:30 Eastern. And then Minnesota, Keegan Cook's Golden Gophers, are they finally going to have that breakthrough year that we've been waiting for from the coaching prodigy up against Texas A&M? And that's at 8:30. So that's going to be your quartet of days to kick off the NCAA women's volleyball season. So mark your calendars, August 22nd. You still can go and grab tickets. I checked, flights are not too bad in that weekend, depending on where you're coming from, because I had to take a peek at it. And so, Mick, without further ado, I think I've delayed long enough. We've got the ads revenue and the sponsorships, and I think you guys already maybe got a YouTube commercial out of the way. So let's go ahead and let's look at our 2025 preseason coaches poll top 10. And so as we look, we see that yet again, one of the most popular teams in women's college volleyball history over the last 2 years will be number one, and that is the Nebraska Huskers, led by Danny Busboom Kelly, led by the trio of preseason watch list members, as well as Bergen Riley will be calling the shots with Andy Jackson dominating in the middle. What do you think when you see these top three, Nebraska, Penn State, Pitt? Do you feel like the coaches put together a strong top three teams, as 40 of the 61 first place votes went to Nebraska?
Well, I think Nebraska is number one for a couple of reasons, but they certainly are bringing back most of their team. And then they add a professional player from Italy on the right side, which should be worth 3+ points per set. If Riley can figure out how to get the middles in scoring position, it's going to be hard to beat Nebraska at any time during the year, except when Nebraska doesn't play. I mean, that's really kind of the situation. So I think number one was easy. Penn State and Pittsburgh as 2 and 3, though, are difficult for me because Pittsburgh is going to have trouble scoring, and we don't know who's going to set there. So, Bledsoe played this summer. She actually didn't play as much as Leidnecki did from A&M. Both collegiate players right now playing for USA this summer. I wonder if Bledsoe can carry a team like that after losing Stafford, transferring to Texas. So that's a hard one for me on Pittsburgh. Now, Penn State, I can ride Lizzie Stark all day long because she, in my opinion, is the best setter in the country right now. And getting Martin from Florida certainly allows them another point scorer, but Jurevicius was a point scorer for them also, and they both play the same position, opposite. So now one of them has to move if they're going to get them both in the lineup because you want Martin hitting out of the back row also. Is this the time Martin learns to pass and moves to left side? That's a possibility. Or is that going to be thrown at Jurevicius, which hasn't been positive in the past, trying to get her over there for more swings? So after that, Penn State is kind of an unknown on who's going to score points for them and what that lineup's going to look like. So that's that. As far as the top three, that's a Nebraska's first. I don't know if Penn State and Pitt are second and third or fifth and sixth.
And so we'll get to see Pitt and Nebraska right away in that season opening match on Friday night on Fox at 7 Eastern. And you mention it, you kind of tease some of the bigger names. Kennedy Martin makes the move from Florida up to Happy Valley. Penn State defending champs. Izzy Stark, as you mentioned, the returning defending champion setter. And Katie Schumacher-Cawley, you can give them a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right off the bat because they can come out and say, why aren't we number one? Penn State gets 21 of the 61 first place votes. And then there's Pitt, who is number one for the majority of last season. They finished the final maybe month and a half or 2 months as the number one overall team. They've got the defending player of the year in Olivia Babcock. But as you mentioned, there are going to be question marks for Dan Fisher's crew. Then you go down to Louisville, where Dan Meskey gets the call up out of the bullpen as the assistant coach and the prodigy there in Kentucky. And then they go out and they grab one of the top transfers in the portal from Purdue. So not a far drive for Chloe Chacoin to make that trip down to Louisville and join the rest of the gang as this Louisville team, you look at them, and Kara Cressy is the other big name, also a preseason watch list member from the AVCA watch list that came out just recently. And so when these teams are going to be featured in the opening weekend, Mick, Louisville will get to kind of sit and learn and watch, and you wonder if there will be advantages to not being a part of that opening weekend or maybe some disadvantages as well. They also add Chloe Meester, the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state, a freshman. And so we go over the top four there and we carry it into number five. And I have to imagine that you've got a couple opinions about the Texas Longhorns here. And they say goodbye to a big assistant coach name in Eric Sullivan, who went and took the United States women's volleyball head coach job. And so, what do you feel like the Texas Longhorns are going to put together going into this season? Jared Elliott back again. They reached the regionals, but it felt like a disappointment for Ella Swindle and company. And you get Stafford, but you lose Madison Skinner. Where do you fill those points? Is Stafford going to be a full replacement?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know, and I have one team ahead of Texas that you haven't talked about, but we'll talk about Texas right now. I think Stafford holds down the left side position, not scoring as well as Madison Skinner, but I think she can hold down that position. They also have two freshmen coming in that I really like, Vanderwall and Spears. If you watch Spears on TV this summer playing for the 19 and under team, she came in and was dominant at times. They think Vanderwall is the player that's ready to play, however. So I think Stafford's got her work cut out for her. Those two freshmen, they've got three left sides, all going to be battling for time. Stafford, of course, will receive a lot of attention because she's been playing and been working hard at Pitt. But now that opens up the right side, and there's not a right side player that's really penciled in for sure there at Texas. So they've got two of their three best scorers can only play at one time, it looks like. Ames is their returning middle that's going to hold down the middle, and then they've got a couple of people that want to go that position. I think they're strongest in the libero position. They have four liberos, and Holter was really good last year, but she's going to get challenged severely in this libero position. They have a foreign athlete, they have a transfer from Indiana, they have a freshman out of Georgetown, Texas, all coming in there to try to take that position. So the real battle there is going to be libero. But guess what? Liberos don't score any points. And so they've got to be concerned with their young kids scoring points, shoring up that right side. And I like the fact that they're staying with their setter. I thought she was good as a freshman. Um, Carlson was brought in her sophomore year, caused a lot of conflict. Um, she's now gone, and so I think now we see what she can do at running the middle and with the new assistant coach handling the offense. Jacob Josephson is taken over. He came from Kentucky. He's taken over the offense. David Hunt's moved to the defense for Texas. An interesting situation there since Josephson is a renowned blocking coach. So I think it'll be interesting. Texas will probably be up and down for a while until they get everybody in positions they think are comfortable.
Well, you mentioned you don't want to move on. Did you want to talk a little bit more about Pitt?
No, I wanted to talk about Kentucky.
Okay, so
I think Kentucky's the top four team. And I'll tell you why. They've got two left sides that may be the two best left sides in the country or close to that. And they can score and that you can set all the balls to the left side for Kentucky if you want. They're also huge in the middle and in the right side. They've got a 6'6" right side. If she comes around, could really be like Shrek at Wisconsin. And yeah, I got it wrong again.
another year. No, it's good. I think you have to keep calling her Shrek now because everyone
I
up in Madison takes a shot every time they watch an episode.
Yeah, well, I was watching her play for Canada this summer, and I was practicing saying it right, and then I just blew it again.
Just
So
throw an M in there. Just Smrek.
Schmreck. Okay, I got it. Okay. But I do think, and I'm saying this, I'm really going out on a limb because Kentucky always starts slow. I don't know what their preseason is, but they build their systems, they get their defense in place first, and then they bring their offense along, it looks like. And so they may not come out of the blocks hot, but that's a team I think is a top four team. And so I throw them in there with Texas and being in that number four position.
Well, how about this? All Kentucky has to do is play Nebraska on ABC August 31st and then go to Penn State on Fox on September 5th. So it's going to be a huge year for advances in women's volleyball TV coverage, and that relies a lot on you guys. You've got to turn on your TVs. You got to watch the games that are on Fox, ABC. Maybe we'll get a few NBC, Big Ten matches again later in the year. And in order for those to continue growing, the fans need to reply and they need to show up and go to a sports bar and have them put on Fox and all those Nielsen ratings need to generate. But yes, Kentucky has Brooklyn DeLay coming back and they went out and grabbed the other of the two massive arms at Purdue. Eva Hudson is making the trip down. Lizzie Carr, a middle blocker for Purdue, also transfers down to Lexington. But the question for Craig Skinner, how do you replace Emma Grome, the All-American setter? Cassie O'Brien is the freshman that is in waiting that may be the starting setter, but I'm not quite sure, as you mentioned, if it will be a strong start again for Kentucky or if we will see the slow to grow, but then Kentucky usually finds their way into the regionals and the regional finals like they did last year. How about Stanford? Kevin Hambly grabs that sixth spot from the coaches. They've got Elia Rubin coming back and Ipar Kurt. Lizzie Andrew was an all-conference middle, but they say goodbye to that core that we really liked watching. Cami Miner and Elena Ogilvy and Sammy Francis, they all left. Do you think that Stanford will continue to dominate like they did in their first year in the ACC, or there will be a step back a bit here for the Cardinal?
I think the Stanford Cardinal can be third, actually, and I'll tell you why. Because Harvey, Ruben, and Kurt can score on any given day. The real question for them is who's going to set, and I think if they can get their setting straightened out, they can score enough points that they really cause problems for a lot of teams. They're okay in the middle. They've got good talent there. They're okay in the libero position. The setter replacing Cami Meyer is the real critical thing. And the other thing is Ruben has to reduce her errors. Honestly, the kid can score. She's really good. She can pass. She's a great left side, but she is constantly has had trouble in big matches with errors. And if you put a big block on her, like the same with Chicoine, then that seems to slow down their scoring potential. It means other people have to pick up the load. So I think Stanford's got a chance, but we'll see by the middle of the season. If they're not getting better, then I think they're going to slip to the lower part of my list. Yeah.
We're going to see a test right away because they'll play Florida on opening night. That'll be a 9 o'clock or maybe probably 9:30 Eastern start on Fox. And then they've got to play Nebraska on ESPN on Sunday out in Lincoln on the road. So we move on and get back into Big Ten country and a team that will not be in the first serve, but will certainly be tested early. Wisconsin will face Texas in the week one, which will be over on August 31st. They'll also take on Kansas. And this is a Kelly Sheffield led team that might be the culmination of these last few years. And Wisconsin fans, I'm sure, have been quite frustrated. But if you look at it as a bit of a rebuild, right? You lose Sarah Franklin, Caroline Crawford, Devin Robinson, Anna Smrek, and all of those huge names, Orjol and Gigi and everything like that. And you look at what has blossomed in Madison now, and you've got a veteran in Carter Booth, and you have a second year setter in Furbringer. You bring in, here's our other big name out of the portal, and someone that's a friend of the show, Mimi Collier, transfers from Oregon to Wisconsin. And you get Grace Egan as well, who's a big outside hitter to add on to those numbers. I have a feeling that Wisconsin may be better than last year because they have less of a distraction with all the huge names.
My question is, they brought in a Polish middle, uh, and they brought in a opposite from Serbia. Have no idea if these kids are ready to play or not. Um, and I think Collier's durable. She was durable for Oregon, but she has to get in rhythm. So I think it's going to be a similar thing for Wisconsin. Um, they need to become consistent scoring. And those foreign players I talked about, Egan's not yet or wasn't yet ready at Ohio State, even though she transferred. She needs to show improvement this year. They're going to still have trouble scoring points and unless these foreign kids can pick up the slack there. Certainly Furbringer will be a lot more comfortable and can direct that offense. She needs to figure out how to get Booth to score more. But I think Wisconsin, I have them down low to start with, probably 10 or 11, simply because I don't know about their people. And I think they're going to have trouble scoring the ball like they did last year. And they had Franklin besides and still had trouble getting enough kills to win matches on a regular basis at a high level.
Well, Kelly Sheffield went out and bolstered up the coaching staff, elevated Izzy Ashburn, who was an assistant at the Indy Ignite with the PVF. She's now an assistant, and went out and grabbed John Shondell, the longtime assistant coach at Purdue. And I've gotten some texts from that coaching staff, and they are very excited with the additions that they've made. And John is a good friend, and I think would be a huge elevation, helped lead Indy to the championship match. Of course, lost to Orlando back in May. But Mick, you're surprised that Wisconsin's this high. I think I'm surprised that Texas A&M is this high. Number 9, of course, Lednicki is the big name, the preseason watch list player and the returner there. But what do you think Jamie Morrison has brewing out there in College Station?
He has 8 seniors. That's what he's got brewing. And he spreads the ball around and he's not so concerned that he wins every match during the year because he spends his time like an international coach trying to build and develop his team. And it's he doesn't seem to be in the same mold as the collegiate coaches that try to win every match. Of course, he tries to win every match, but he's not afraid to develop something if he thinks it's going to help him be better at the end. And that's how he almost got into the Final Four this last year. On the other side, they had a wonderful season last year, culminated with a chance to go to the Final Four. That's going to be hard to duplicate, especially when you come back and everybody now expects you to be good every night. So, but he's doing the grinding, and I've seen his practices. I've seen him run that team, and they're grinders. And if they stay with it, and if they keep everything the way they have been going and they get better, they're going to be a serious team to deal with. Lednicki can score against two blockers. She's proven she can do that, and they trust her. But he gets other people involved, and they've got a middle that's coming back that really is tough to deal with. She is very tall and very good at hitting across her body on the quick sets. It's hard to stop, and that opens up Lednicki because she goes across her body. And are you going to block two? Or are you going to bring your right side in and block her? Try to double Lednicki. So he's got 3 rotations there that are very good that he can score a lot. I think with 8 seniors, he keeps everything the way he wants it and he brings the young kids along.
I think what you said there about the expectation to win, the fans are going to show up expecting, that can be said about our number 10 team. This is going to round out our top 10 here. A little bit of a different story. Not all the seniors returning for SMU and the upstart phenom coach and Sam Urger and the 16-4 season in the ACC they had, just returning a pair of upperclassmen, saying goodbye to Cullen and Chimay and Foster and Tabron and Okamore and all those big names. But the transfer portal was really, let's call it fortuitous to the deep pockets of SMU. They went out and they got a huge name in Malaya Jones, one of the top group of five transfers out of Colorado State. She was the conference player of the year. Avery Carlson makes the move. She'll be setting back in her home state and home city. Jaden Livings and Favor Onyawu are a pair of teammates from club ball that went to USC, did not quite mesh there, and now these two big names, but have not quite proven themselves sophomores, one a middle in Onyawu and one in an outside in Livings, certainly could bring the pop.
Yeah, I think their talent is very, very good. Carlson can run the system. I think if she's not looking over her shoulder, seeing who's going to come in for her, she plays very comfortably. And most setters feel like that. They don't like to do um, situations where if the rhythm goes off, they get pulled out and then they come in. They usually don't work well like that. Carlson's very much like that. Leave her alone, let her set. She'll get into it. She'll run that offense. Those young kids are really good. Um, They've got to grow up though. They didn't show a great maturity in their freshman year, and so and most freshmen have trouble with that. But right now, if they get maturity, they picked up also an outside hitter from Auburn, which gives them now a group of athletes again like last year. And you know, she got them to gel early. They played some great matches at home, had some great wins at home. Now to see if she can go on the road and do some damage. I think SMU's top 10 team and can move up a lot higher if she gets maturity and if she gets cohesiveness, if Carlson can take hold of that team and lead it.
And they've got a favorable schedule. It's not anything tough. They go to LSU, they play Baylor opening weekend, Washington, Northern Iowa, and Stony Brook. And then it gets a little bit tougher for SMU into September. They'll play A&M, Kentucky, Purdue, three in a row there. And so that'll be a real test for the Mustangs. You know, taking a look at another ACC schedule, Louisville is a team that you could expect to have early success. They start against Auburn, Morehead State, St. John's, Illinois. So a chance for Dan Meskey to really get in under his feet there. I don't have any problem with the not testing yourself right away. As long as somewhere in early September you give yourself those tests, you give yourself the bracket opportunities later in the year that you can look back and say, hey, we beat this top 10, top 20 team. And so, Mick, it's time to look at the rest of our top 25 now. We did a deep dive into the top 10. We'll kind of pick and choose here some teams and maybe some rapid fire here over the rest, but let's take a look at the rest of our top 25.
Now, Minnesota is one that probably everybody thinks should be in the top 10, and I think they've got the talent to be in the top 10, but for some reason they haven't played well. And two of my favorite players, McKenna Wachicher, and I'm not saying that probably perfect, but
I think it's Wooker, yeah.
yeah, Wooker, yeah, okay. McKenna Wooker and Julia Hansen, the two left sides up there, can score the ball, and they are good, let me tell you. They've got several options for setter. They got a Swinson coming in as a freshman. All the Swinsons have been good at Minnesota. That whole family has produced setters. And he's got a freshman there that he can look at. He's got a junior he can look at, but he can score the ball now. Minnesota just needs to be tougher. Ever since Hughes left, they've not been as tough, seemingly, and not a finisher team like you'd like to see, and they're capable of doing that. So I think Keegan maybe can get that done this year and get those kids to finish, and he could be a threat to get into the Final Four, actually, if he gets everything going the way he wants it to.
And we'll see Minnesota up against Texas A&M on that Monday, August 25th, the late match. on Big Ten Network in Sioux Falls in the AVCA First Serve. They've added Remember that Purdue had an exodus this last offseason. Lourdes Myers, I think it's probably the fourth Purdue starter that I've already mentioned that is on another team here this season. She was a veteran middle that averaged over a kill and a block per set, making the move up to Minnesota as they said goodbye to Oalewa and Grote. And of course, you mentioned Schaffmaster as the replacement there. And so, Mick, five of these 10 here in the next 10 teams are all in the Big Ten Conference. And so, as we look to see what this conference might bring, JJ Van Neal in his third season at the helm out in Arizona State, maybe an upstart Kansas squad led by Matt Ulmer. Who's a team that you really like? Of course, BYU is always in the mixture with Heather Olmstead and her squad, and then Ryan McGuire and Baylor round out that five Big 12 teams here in the next 10.
I like Arizona State. I think O'Neill's got that going out there. He knows how to win at Arizona State. He knows what kind of players he needs to bring in, and he's got a system that accents their abilities. So he's really reduced errors and is very specific about letting his star players really be the stars. And if you're a player, you really like that. I see Missouri moving up in that group. I see UCLA moving up in that group. I see Utah and Dayton also moving up. Of the teams I see on the upswing right now, I would identify those.
Yeah, you mentioned UCLA, and this is a team that got a lot of love from the Big Ten coaches. They were picked in the top five of the Big Ten. In fact, UCLA was picked fourth, USC was picked fifth. And so, Alfie Reft has not made a lot of headway in his 2+ years as the head coach there in LA. And it always feels it's so funny the way that it mirrors UCLA football, basketball, volleyball. You feel like you get into the limelight, almost like the New York Yankees, and you wonder what kind of players can thrive under that pressure, Mick. Do you feel like maybe the newcomer in Mariana Singletary and the all SEC first teamer could be a good fit? And of course they've got Leverett coming back, and she was a preseason watch list member, and UCLA got a lot of love on this watch list from the AVCA because Maggie Lee, who's another returner, she was added. So UCLA has two of the 30 players on the preseason watch list for the AVCA.
Well, Maggie Lee is a transfer from Cal, and she is way better than anybody knows. She had struggled at Cal for whatever reason, maybe the setting, maybe some other reasons, not supported with the talent that she needs to be supported. But she's a terminator on the left side. UCLA now has two terminators. If they teach the transfer from Texas to block, she can hit the ball. They can get her in for offense, but her struggles at Texas were really being really stable in the middle, getting her hands over the net, and being good at net defense. If that improves at UCLA all at once, they're a team that can beat a lot of teams in the Big Ten. And they'll move them up into close to the top 10, in my opinion. They're good enough to do that with the transfer people they have. And don't forget Kong from Louisville. The middle blocker from Louisville is there also. That gives them two really quality middles, two scoring left sides. And can they score on the right side? That will be the big thing. If they get all those kids involved in the offense, they could really cause some serious problems. So I think Alfie's kind of sitting back, trying to go under the radar or maybe under the net. Uh, but he's really put together a nice group. Now can he get them to play together right now? I think UCLA is certainly a team that you have to be very careful with.
So let's go back to that 12 spot in Creighton. A similar scenario to Louisville. Head coach leaves, Kirsten Bernthal Booth, a surprise retirement from the head coaching ranks to go take an administrative role in Love Volleyball. So Brian Rosen gets elevated, assistant coach of the year, undefeated in the Big East, Elite Eight season, and Ava Martin will lead the way, the All-American outside. Creighton went out and got some transfers, right? They've got Brandy Wee from Ohio State, a big middle, and then a Cal setter and Sage Damrow, who played a little bit in the back row in Wisconsin. Those are kind of the three big newcomers for Ava Martin, Jaya Johnson, and Sydney Bressinger. Do you think Nora Sis and Kendra Waite can be replaced in these names, or do you think it might be a tougher season for Creighton?
Tougher season for Creighton. I love Ava Martin. I think she's one of the best players in the country. And when they got into really serious play in the NCAA tournament, Ava Martin stepped up. If others could have stepped up with her, Creighton could have been in the Final Four. That's how good that team could be, or could have been last year. Ava Martin can get them into the Sweet 16 this year if the other players will play up and play well. New coach sometimes can really stimulate players to overachieve. Doesn't always happen. It can go that way, but if you look at people who have taken over teams and won a national championship that year, that that has happened several times right now. It just gives the players a new injection of a different voice, and sometimes they see it differently. I know the players liked their coach at Creighton a lot before she retired, so this will be a difficult transition, maybe or maybe not. It's good to watch Creighton. I think it's a good team. I think they can be a top 16 team. I think Martin has to produce like she has, but I have no doubt that she's going to play well. So I think that's nice for Coach Rosen, and he can get off on the right foot. He and Martin have to be a team.
Well, they've got a chance right off the bat, right? A chance
Yeah.
against the defending champs on opening night for them, Saturday night, August 23rd in Lincoln. So Creighton should have the home court advantage there with the fans as they will take on Penn State, 5 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And then a couple nights later, we'll see Penn State take on Kansas. And I think Kansas is going to be a really interesting team to watch. We really like them the last few years. Cameron Turner is gone. She's playing pro. Matt Ulmer has made the move and brought his setter with him, Kristen Klein from Oregon. And then you talk about the newcomers and your Serbia connections. Jovana Zelenovic, a freshman
Good.
opposite, 6'7". How did I do there? Not too
That was good. That was very good.
Keep an eye on her. She is going to be a name. I think she won the national championship last year. I'm not going to say the name of the team that she won it with because I'm one for one here. So I'm going to keep it with that. But I had Omer tell me that this freshman outside Logan Bell from Indiana, Gatorade Player of the Year last year, she also is going to be someone competing for playing time right away. And so I have a sneaking suspicion that Kansas could be a team to watch in the Big 12.
I would I would be interested in watching Kansas also. I think after Ray Bouchard's been there so long, Ulmer needs at least one season to really get control of that. He's done very well. He's always been patient when he's come into new team programs. I would think, depending on these newcomers coming in, Kansas will fly as they play. And it could be that it will take him a year or two to really get that where he wants it. But there's great support by the Kansas administration and by the men's basketball coach there for the women's volleyball team. And Burchard did that, developed that relationship there. And I have no doubt that Kansas will be good in the next 2 or 3 years, if not this year.
All right, Mick, I think we've officially gone the longest in a six rotations episode without me talking about my Florida Gators. So let's go ahead and mention it. Ryan Thies makes the move from Marquette to replace Mary Wise. Alexis Stuckey healthy after tearing her ACL, in 2024. She'll be making that return at setter, but Taylor Parks provided some admirable relief last year. Florida surprised a lot of teams and reached the regional semis, but of course, no more Kennedy Martin. They lost to Ellie McKissick, the star in the back row, and AC Fitzpatrick is gone, and Isabel Martin as well. But they did bring in that Texas opposite, right, or outside in Jordan Bird, who used to be the number one prospect. So that feels like a little bit of positive momentum. Where are you thinking with Florida here this year?
It's interesting to me how athletic departments replace coaches. And Coach Wise was there for a long, long time and had a style of play, and everybody was used to it. The new coach's style of play is totally opposite of the way Florida went about their team. This is a style of play that people are going to have to learn to appreciate. This is more of a grinding style of play. This is a disciplined style of play, and it's a patient style of play. The coach is going to expect the team to give 110% every night and get better week by week. He's not going to push this team to be great to start with. He's extremely patient on the sideline, but in practice, he's going to get things corrected. His style of play has a chance to dominate. If he could get top athletes in the country at Marquette, he would have been in the hunt every year after getting that program turned around. He will do the same thing at Florida, but he has to get his players that learn to want to grind in practice, learn that want to really go after it in practice. And they will be good in the games, but it's going to be harder, I believe, than the style of play that was being played at Florida. Maybe that's one of the reasons Florida will have a chance to win a national championship here pretty soon because they will grind. And so it's kind of an interesting thing to watch. I really love to watch styles of play of different coaches and what works at the end and what works early. And Skinner's one that's a grinder at Kentucky, and their teams always start off so slow. You just want to shake them, to get them going. But boy, when they start kicking it in October, and by November, they're just smooth and going after it. So I would encourage everybody to watch Florida.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns there. Mentioned Stuckey, who didn't play after the injury, and then Jordan Bird, who didn't play at Texas. She redshirted. How about Kira Hudson, who used to be a top 10 prospect in the state of Illinois? She was injured 2 years ago, has not played since. And so that's another big outside hitter for Florida. And all they have to do is start off with Stanford and then Pitt on the road in the state of Nebraska. So that's gonna be a tough one. I want to talk a little Missouri because Missouri might have made the most underrated transfer move of the offseason, but the AVCA is paying attention because Kaylin Alexander, who led all of Division One in kills last season for Hawaii, she is a preseason watch list, one of the 30 players for the Player of the Year. She's going to make some noise, I will say, in Columbia, Missouri this season. And a Tigers team, Don Sullivan has a lot of fire to her. They've got the Libero of the Year in Maya Sands. I would not be surprised, and I'm going to say right now, I think Missouri is a team that will go head to head with the Texas A&Ms of the conference, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Missouri wound up in the top 4 or 5.
I think they were going there last year. They had it going in the last month and a half. I don't think that'll stop. I agree with you. I think Sullivan's really figured out Missouri, and Missouri's always been capable of putting out volleyball players. They get a lot of those good kids from Kansas City, the St. Louis area, all of that Midwest, middle of the Midwest, and they draw from there and they produce good kids. Local kids are good there also. So and they get a great following. I think Missouri is going to be in the top four of the SEC.
And then two teams that I want to talk about that have a little bit of similarities to me, Purdue and Georgia Tech. What are we going to get from these teams, Mick? That, two kind of flashy names that usually produce throughout the season and two phenomenal coaches in Shondell and Collier, but just I'm not sure if the talent is going to be there, at least through the first month of the season. We talk about all the people that Purdue had to replace, and they did a job in the transfer portal. And if you go to Dave Shondell's social medias, he makes it seem like he brought in the big three, like the Miami Heat did. And so the names that they bring in, and Lindsey Miller from USC and Dior Charles from Wake Forest, we'll see if it's enough to replace Hudson and Chacoin and Colvin and Myers and that whole bunch.
Shondell will have trouble scoring.
Yeah.
Those kids will play well. They're well based. They have good skills. He'll mold them very nicely, and they'll play hard. I don't think they can score enough points, and that's why the Big Ten coaches, I think, rank them a seventh, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably accurate. Now, Dave could surprise all of us and really get those kids to overachieve and come out smoking, and Purdue could get back in the hunt to the top four of the Big Ten, but I don't see that.
So then Georgia Tech, Utah, Dayton, and TCU round out our 25 here. Anything kind of jump out to you there? Dayton's a team that just keeps rolling under the radar. They don't play anyone big throughout the year, and then they wind up 31-3 and made it to the regionals last year. So they were certainly deserving of the respect that they got from the coaches poll.
Yeah, and they would have had Ohio State on their roster last year, except that the administration didn't put them in the basketball facility where they had air conditioning, and it got too slippery because of the humidity to play the match. So they didn't get to show what they could do against a Big Ten team. And I think Dayton will try to schedule a good schedule again pre-conference so that they can show how good they are. But they consistently every year produce a team that is close to winning their conference and a team that can be in the top 16, and they proved that this year. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out. TCU is a team that I don't know what they're doing, and I thought they would challenge SMU. So I don't think they're 20th. I think they're probably better than that, but I don't have any reason to think that because I didn't see the quality of player recruited there this year that was in my top 20 or top 30 list. The same goes with Georgia Tech. Unless we get two or three new Brazilians, I didn't see the quality of U.S. talent commit to go to Georgia Tech this coming year. So I think we have to watch and see what their roster looks like when they open.
So I'll go one at a time. Dayton does have a bit of a tough schedule to start. First weekend at Utah, second weekend at Marquette, third weekend at Minnesota. So tests right off the bat for Dayton and Tim Horsman. You mentioned Georgia Tech and who they brought in. They did go overseas. They've got a freshman in the European Best Serve contest in Noemi Despagne. They've got a freshman in the Poland national team in Anna Fidoroshwish, something like that. And then they've got a top United States freshman recruit in Mimi Mambu. So we'll see if any of those three can try to replace the big pop of Bianca Bertolino or Tamara Otene. But it just didn't feel like last year had it. Georgia Tech finished outside the top 25 to end the year last year. And then can TCU replace Melanie Parra? That's the big question. Jalen Gibson was all conference last year on the outside, and Sarah Sylvester in the middle is a veteran. And so Williams has the vets. I'm just not 100% sure that the point scoring, as you mentioned, will be there. And then the three names that came after 25 are Tennessee, Oregon, and North Carolina. And I really liked what North Carolina had cooking for most of last year. So we'll see if they take that momentum into this season. And then Oregon is a name that has a head coach in the movement from Ulmer into Trent Kirsten, who made the move from LMU, and he did a really good job putting the Lions on the map out there. So I'm curious to see if Oregon can kind of turn the tides because now they're in the Big Ten, and all you got to do is put together a middle of the pack season, and you might make the postseason out of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think Oregon is a problem uh, because the administration is not putting the funds into the program with all this new stuff coming, and that's really why there's been an exodus there. And I wish the new coach the very, very best because he's got his work cut out for him. He's not only going to have to sell Oregon, he's going to have to take care of those guys because they're not going to get the same kind of support that the other Big Ten teams are getting at the top of the rank. So Oregon may drop out here a little bit until they decide to invest more funds into that program again. I was shocked that they didn't like what they had going for them and where the trajectory of that program was going when it came up that do we want to keep our coach or not? That would take a better contract and more help for the players. So that's Oregon's situation. And then boy, I think North Carolina is going to be in the top 20. I think they're going to be better than people think. I was surprised they didn't get more. And Tennessee has normally gotten in our top 25 poll to start with. They're not. I think another team to watch might be Washington. The Big Ten coaches picked up on what Tui Apasopo has done up there. Actually, that's her maiden name. She played for me, Leslie, and she was so good. She's really worked hard at building that program back. She's got it about two-thirds of the way back now. I think that's a team to watch also in that group. And then one that's fallen a bit is Florida State as well as Arkansas. I'm not sure where those guys are. They have constantly battled to be in the top 25, and the coaches didn't give them a lot of respect to start with. So it's kind of nice now that we're having trouble getting into the top 25 and everybody has to battle. We have a great group of teams also listed on the top 25 poll. Look through those. I think many of those teams will be challenging to get on there, and it's going to be a great year for watching volleyball on TV.
Perfect. Leslie Gabriel is her name there. And also
Gabriel,
keep
yes.
an eye out on the island. I will never sleep on Robin Amo. Hawaii is a team that almost always competes and certainly will have a couple early season upsets as they usually do. And Mick, I am so excited to get into another season long journey with you and all of our six rotation watchers. And as always, we love partnering with the AVCA for this yearly reveal. They really tested us this year. They moved it up a week. So we are going to take next week off. We're going to jump into things the week of opening week, which is going to be in 2 weeks. And we will have all of the previews for you. We'll talk about the other teams as well. But I want a little deeper of a dive of this AVCA First Serve. So whether you guys all have opinions or thoughts, put them all together, email them to us, and we'll do a bit of a mailbag segment for that episode coming up in 2 weeks. So as always, stick with you. We thank our sponsors in SNA Sports and Ren Athletics and look forward to season 5 covering this fantastic and ever explosive sport. As always, he's Mick, I'm Daniel, and this is Six Rotations.